Welcome back to the Healthy is Hard podcast. This is your host, Bailey French, a Purdue-trained nutritional scientist, and today we are going to talk about some simple ways that you can improve your health today. You've been told that healthy is hard, but the truth is, my friend, that finding health can be simple, and I am here to help you do that. If you are ready to take control over your health and win back the confidence in knowing that you are preventing the diseases that run in your family, you've come to the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, my friend. Welcome back to the Healthy is Hard podcast. If this is your first time, welcome, and I am so thrilled that you landed on this episode in particular. Today, we are talking about digestion. This is one of the most asked topics, very frequently asked questions about gut health, about digestion, and how all of these things correlate to a happy, healthy body, as well as disease prevention. So if you are new around here, my name is Bailey French. I am a nutritional scientist and counselor. And what that means for you is that I have a background in the way food digests and breaks down inside of your body and how that impacts your cells. So we are getting really nitty-gritty with how food actually chemically impacts your body. Now, this is a really big deal, especially if you have someone in your family who has a history of disease like heart attack, stroke, cancer, hypertension, diabetes, all of these things that are very normal in today's society. They are very common, is what I should say. These things, the prevalence of these very common diseases it should not be normal. However, we've come to a point where it is. And when we look at this data today, you may also be moved over to the side of believing that digestion might actually play a huge role in that process. So let's walk it back a little bit here. We are not diving into everything about digestion today, simply for the fact that we would be here for hours and hours. And I respect your time. I too like to make sure I spread the wealth of my time between all things that matter. So today we're really just going to brush the surface with a little bit of gut knowledge, digestion education. We're going to think about this as the very first train stop. There will certainly be follow-up episodes to this, probably a couple of really exciting interviews for you guys with a couple of other experts on this topic, a couple of people who have been through some digestive issues and how they've actually moved through that to become in a place of healing and a place where they just feel so much better, a lot in part due to dietary changes. Now, if you are someone that's currently struggling with a digestive disorder specifically, or you're just having some general digestive issues, we're talking things like bloating, gas, constipation, and or diarrhea on a regular basis. Some of those things that again have become normalized, those are not normal symptoms. They should not be happening every day, even every week. And while they are common, that doesn't mean that you have to live that way or that that's really a good way to live. The goal is to be thriving, not simply surviving with all of these gut complication issues, right? So today we're going to go through at the very end 3 tools that you can start using today to improve your digestion and improve your gut health a little bit. And they might not actually be what you think. So stick around until the end so that you can find out what those tools are. I would be willing to bet money if I was a gambling type of gal that they are 3 tips that you probably wouldn't have thought would be coming from a nutrition professional for you to try first. So stick around for those, but let's start all the way back at the beginning, probably where you first heard about gut health and how the gut-brain connection works. So if you are driving, do not do this. Come back to this episode when you are stopped and in a safe place. But if you're able, go ahead and take out a pencil, a pen, and a piece of paper, or the notes app on your phone and jot some of these things down. These are great points to come back to do some research on your own. Ask me questions if you have them. All of my contact information will be linked in the show notes to this episode. So if you have questions that come up throughout the duration of this episode, please feel free to reach out and ask me, and I can address them with you and potentially in another podcast episode. Because if you have a question, it is very likely that lots of other people out there have that same question. So please do not feel afraid to reach out and ask your questions. This is a safe place. Today, we're opening the floor. We are talking about poop. You're talking about flatulence. You're talking about all the very unsexy things, because the gain that you can have when your gut health and digestion is in order is living your best life. I have a friend who also works in gut health, and she always says your quality of life rises and falls on your digestion. And she's so right. So that's why we're going to talk about this. Don't be afraid to open up, be a little bit vulnerable about this, because you will feel so much better once you start taking steps to improve your digestion. So back to that gut-brain connection that we talked about a little bit. It is a real thing, and a lot of that actually comes back to the fact that upwards of 70% of your immune cells live inside of your gut. So if you've never really heard about the immune system before or how it works, most of the body systems that we have run on this circuit style situation, right? If you think about it, the cardiovascular system starts in your heart and goes through your veins and arteries all throughout the body. The muscular system, muscles attached to each other all through the body, head to toe. Same with the skeletal system. The respiratory system is specific to your lungs, right? The digestive system is specific to your gut, your intestines, your colon, and it goes from mouth to rectum. So there are these connected, physically connected systems that we typically think about for body processes. The immune system plays by a different rule book. So the immune system is actually every single place in your body. Each and every single cell that you have has its own immune response, which is a really cool thing. And it's very exciting to know that you have a whole lot of opportunity to improve your immune health if every single cell inside of your incredible body has the ability to have an immune response. But a vast majority of those cells that influence the immune response live in the gut, which is why it's so important to focus on proper digestion. Because when you think of the immune system, a lot of different points and things come out of the immune system. Immune system regulates things like cancer cell growth, acute illness, a cold, the flu, mono, things like that. It also regulates hormones. Your hormones are pretty closely related with your immune system. If you're a woman, you know that around that time of the month, you start to feel like you have a cold or the flu. You just feel really crummy. That is not on accident. Now, when we get to hormones, we have a whole nother subset here. Your hormones can impact things like your sexual health, your libido. They can impact your fertility. They can impact your mood. They can impact your rate of developing obesity. They play a role in your metabolism. When we get to obesity, then we really start to make this connection of how gut health and digestion are related to disease prevention. Because we know that while it is not the only factor, obesity does give us higher risk of developing hypertension, heart disease, things like atherosclerosis, heart attack, stroke, those all fall under the umbrella of heart disease. Type 2 diabetes is more prevalent in obese patients. All of these things are incredibly connected, and we know that digestive health directly impacts your risk of developing colon cancer. So all of these things are really intricately connected, and if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see here that this is all a cascade of events, right? An actual physical linear connection from gut health and digestion all the way down to the very common diseases that we see on a daily basis that have somehow become so normal that hundreds of thousands of people die from these diseases every single year, when a lot of them can be prevented with dietary and lifestyle changes. That breaks my heart, and that's exactly why we're talking about digestion today. In my perfect world, there is not one more person who knows the heartbreak and grief of losing somebody that they love to a disease that was entirely preventable. 80% of all heart attack, heart disease, and stroke occurrences are preventable through dietary and lifestyle changes. 80%. That is such a huge number. And most days, I simply can't wrap my head around the fact that we don't care. If we, as a collective, truly cared about lowering that number, we would all be up in arms. It would be as heated of a debate as masks were during the COVID pandemic. Hopefully, Spotify doesn't censor me for saying that. But being entirely honest, why are we not more outraged that this information is not readily available? You didn't learn that in high school. Nobody told you that eating fast food on your lunch break when you're in that busy working season as a young adult could potentially put you in the hospital at 50 or 60 years old. Some of these things might be kind of common sense to a lot of people, but there are simply so many people out there that just don't know because this information has not been made readily available. So, a little aside there to share my heart with you today. But digestion really impacts a lot of what's going on with our rates of disease in the United States. And so when you take the time to focus on gut health, on the digestive process, in turn, you are actually taking the time to prevent illness and therefore promote health in your body, which is one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself, as well as your children and their children and generations to come. So speaking on digestion here, there are so many different directions that we could go today, but we're going to today dive into the topic of absorption. Now, the absorption of the gut, of your colon, of your digestive tract, whatever you want to call it, is essentially how your body is able to absorb the nutrients that you're eating, and that is directly correlated with digestion here. So digestion is the process of breaking down food. It is digesting it, literally physically, chewing it, breaking it down, swallowing it, adding it to the digestive juices in your stomach, further breaks down chemically some of these foods. And then after that, it goes into the colon, the small intestine, the large intestine. Those are all part of your colon, of your digestive tract. And that is really where we start to see, you can think of it kind of like milking a cow. Your intestines do physically move, and that is called your gut motility. So they kind of open up, expand, and constrict to allow food to move through your body. Constipation often occurs when we are dehydrated because that expansion and contraction gets more difficult. Think about how hard it is to keep moving your body when you are exhausted and dehydrated. You physically get really tired. Your limbs feel really heavy. It's hard to do anything but sit around and be lazy. That same thing happens to your gut. So it is incredibly important to be hydrated, to be drinking enough fluid. But something else we're going to talk about in a moment is about being hydrated on the inside, which looks a little bit different than just making sure you're drinking your water. So when we talk about that physical movement of food through the digestive tract, there are different layers to your intestines that absorb, kind of suck up and soak up some of those nutrients. Some of them are passed through our fecal matter, through our urine. We do lose some nutrients. That's the way it's supposed to be. That is the body doing its job. But some of them get absorbed. They get released into the bloodstream. And that is how we have stable levels of vitamins and minerals. Now, if there is something wrong, if that structure, those layers, aren't quite doing as good a job as they should, then we start to see absorption issues in the gut. This has been termed and coined leaky gut. This is a whole other podcast episode. I do not call it leaky gut because it is an absorption problem within the digestive tract. I call it what it is. Leaky gut is a great umbrella term, similar to IBS. It's one that we've been allowed to throw out and say, you know what, I'm not exactly quite sure what's wrong with you. Here you go. Leaky gut is an answer. I hope that helps you feel better about your situation. When you have absorption issues in the gut, there are specific things that you can do to improve your digestion, improve your absorption, as well as strengthen and help to repair and heal those layers of the gut that actually absorb the food. Again, a whole other conversation for a whole nother day. But just know that there are these very specific things that we can look at when you're experiencing absorption issues. And if you're not sure if you are, a good place to start asking the question is if you have labs repeatedly come back with low vitamin B12 and low vitamin D. Each of them on their own are really common. There are different instances, different dietary patterns that can lead to low vitamin D or low vitamin B12. But when we see the both of them together, that tells me as a nutrition professional that you're likely experiencing an absorption issue. Vitamin B12 and vitamin D are actually absorbed into the body in a little bit different manner than most other vitamins and minerals. It takes a little bit longer. It's a bit of a longer process to get it from either the food or the sun, in the case of vitamin D, break it down and actually turn it into the useful compound inside of the body. If you are low in vitamin D as well as vitamin B12, it sets off that little alarm bell above my head, because if your body is having a hard time processing the longer acting vitamins, vitamin B12 and vitamin D, that says that things are either moving a little bit too quickly or the layers of that structure are not as strong as they should be. When we put it in these terms, it starts to make a lot of sense, right? I just felt you all collectively nod your head and be like, oh, wait, that really makes sense. It really does. The body is so incredible at telling you exactly what you need. And that is where nutrition professionals, doctors, physical therapists all come into the picture. There is a time and place for each and every one of us, because here's the thing. If you are critically low in vitamin B12 and vitamin D, I would be ethically unsound to tell you that you don't need to go to a doctor and get it resolved right away. For a while, you might need medical intervention, but there are things that you can do alongside of the acute medical interventions so that you can improve your digestion for the long haul and not have to take the medication forever and ever. Amen. Okay. So these are all really comprehensive things because the fact of the matter is that if you're low in vitamin D, as well as vitamin B12, it's probably been like that for quite some time. And if your body's really missing out on that, you're probably experiencing some pretty significant symptoms. Chronic fatigue is going to be a pretty persistent one. Feeling really sore after a workout or feeling like your muscles are really just lethargic and not able to do much. Again, constipation might be a good one. They're telling you that something's off, or your digestion just not being quite right. Those symptoms are not fun ones to have. They're not ones that you want to deal with forever. And so that's when we turn our head and start to look at absorption as a potential cause to what's going on. So in order to start this conversation of the 3 tools that you should start doing today to improve your digestion, actually I have a bonus tool that I'm going to start with, and it is electrolytes. Electrolytes have become incredibly popular over the last several years simply because there have been products created to combat the problem. It is a real problem, and it is one that does need to be addressed. A lot of times when we see absorption issues, it could be because your electrolytes are not balanced. We were told as kids, you were probably told as a child that your pee should be pale yellow in color. That is still the truth. Nothing about that has changed, but now we are under the general understanding that the more water you drink, the better. That's not necessarily the case. If your pee is clear or really, really, really barely tinted yellow, you are overhydrated. And when you are overhydrated, there is a chance that your organs are dehydrated. It is a bit counterintuitive, but what that really looks like on the inside is that you are drinking so much water that you are starting to deplete your electrolytes. Your potassium, sodium, and magnesium go first. So if you eat a low salt diet because you are someone who is worried about hypertension or heart disease, and you're drinking a ton of water to the point where your pee is clear every day, you may be at risk of electrolyte imbalance, which could put you at risk of absorption issues in the gut, which can impact your digestion. It's a whole cascade of things going on here, right? So, how do we be mindful of that? Moderation. If you know me at all, you knew that's what I was going to say. Moderation is truly the way to go here. Now, the reason that I say that is because when you have a moderate intake of water that is correct in amount for your body, as well as a moderate amount of electrolytes like sodium, you will experience that good balance for your body, that good point of homeostasis for your body where you are hydrated both inside and outside. So electrolytes are kind of a bonus tip. You should be incorporating electrolytes into your diet. However, electrolytes do not include sugar. Sugar is not an electrolyte. Therefore, it does not need to be in an electrolyte drink supplement. Are we clear here? So there may be some brands out there that have like 11 grams of sugar in one packet. Did you know that your daily recommended intake of sugar is about 25 grams per day for women and 28 grams per day for men? That is your goal, to stay under 25 grams and 28 grams respectively for females and males. If you are drinking one packet that has 11 grams in it, that is almost half of your daily intake of sugar. And I'm not quite sure about you, but I would much rather have a cookie or eat something sweet. Ice cream sounds pretty good over drinking something that is supposed to be healthy for me. Now, we've talked a whole lot about sugar and the impact that it can have on your body. You know that it can be rather detrimental when we're talking about health promotion. So, if you're looking for an electrolyte drink, I'm actually going to link in the show notes a really fantastic guide from a fellow nutrition professional. She works a lot more with hormones and skin health, and electrolytes play a huge factor in that side of the nutrition world. But again, they're really important for lots of different things. So I will link that guide in the show notes. Credit to Nutrition by Robin. That's where you can find her on Instagram if you'd like to check it out a little bit further. She does recommend some supplements in there for these, what we call mineral mocktails. Everybody has a different starting point. You don't have to start with the drops or the powders or anything like that. A really basic, plain level mineral mocktail or electrolyte drink from whole food sources can look like a glass of water with a splash of orange juice, a pinch of salt, and some coconut water. Okay, those are good sources of potassium, sodium, and magnesium respectively. And so that is going to be a really good way for you to ensure that you are not only getting the health benefits from those whole food sources, but you're also getting the electrolytes to balance any extra water that you're intaking. So if you're looking to improve your digestion, try out a mineral mocktail as well as these 3 tips. Okay, so number 1 is going to actually be increase your water intake. You should be right about half your body weight in ounces. So I am 150 pounds. My water goal is 75 ounces or more each day. Do the calculation, see how you're doing, try and calculate if you can. Something that is really helpful for me, I have taken all of the cups in my house, my travel tumblers that I take water in, and put them into a really big measuring cup, like a 4-cup measuring cup. And that tells me how many ounces are in each cup. So then I can mentally make a note of how many ounces I'm getting. If I'm drinking 2 24-ounce tumblers of water, I know that that is 48 ounces. Okay, so I know that I probably need to be upwards of 3 tumblers, right? I have another tumbler that's 32 ounces. So 2 of those gets me a little bit closer to that goal. But knowing how much is in each of those cups can be really helpful. Make sure you are hitting that half your body weight in ounces goal. And if you are on the train of drinking a gallon of water a day, and that has not been deemed medically necessary by your doctor, I would urge you to reconsider. I would encourage you to take note of how your body is doing, how your pee looks, how you're feeling towards the end of the day and at bedtime. If there's room for improvement, try knocking back your water intake. So instead of drinking more water, maybe this first tip should be called moderate your water intake for what your body needs. Sometimes that might look like adding more water. Sometimes it might actually look like having a little bit less. Tip number 2 is going to be increase your color intake. Increase your color intake. You should aim to have 3 colors every single day. That might sound like a silly common sense goal, but when you sit down and think about it, how many colors beside green and beige do you have on a regular basis? It is very easy to get into a cycle of just having greens all the time, leafy greens, broccoli, asparagus, Brussels sprouts, green beans. Those are all fantastic options. They are really good for your health, but you need to be adding in diet diversity to support a healthy digestive tract. So add in more things like sweet potatoes and carrots to hit your orange category. Bananas and potatoes are okay sometimes to get your white nutrient. Pineapple. A lot of your different colors are going to come from fruits. Obviously, your reds and your blues come from berries, right? That's where your mind goes first. But stretch yourself to think of other ways. Add in some red cabbage or even pickled red cabbage. These are really good ways to stretch yourself, to think outside of the box, create some new and exciting recipes to keep mealtime interesting and enjoyable, but also to improve your digestion and, in the long run, improve your health for as long as you live. Okay, so 3+ colors every single day. If you can hit each color of the rainbow every day, that is like next level. You are advanced student on this digestion journey, but start with 3 colors. Think it out, make a plan to have each of those colors in your house, even cut them up so that it's easy to grab and go. Make this as simple as possible for yourself. Your final tip is to add tea at night. So this tip is a pretty sound one. If you think about it, throughout the day, when you wake up, your body's stress level is at its highest. You have to think about getting out the door, getting dressed, getting ready, all the things you have to do today. And if we think back to primal times, that was the same situation. Cavemen woke up and they had to think about, how am I going to get food today? How am I going to start fire today? What is my shelter today? That's a lot to think about. It is a lot for the body to process. It creates stress. That is a natural and good thing for the body. However, in today's society, we have a touch too much stress. Can I get an amen? Just a little bit too much. So you might be experiencing those high levels of stress all day long, even right when you're about to leave the office at the end of the day. Your cortisol levels should be steadily declining as the day goes on. And if they don't, it can make it harder for you to digest your food in the evening. With your stress levels goes your digestion. So in the morning, your digestion really ramps up when you have your first meal. And then throughout the day, it starts to slow down. Overnight, it should turn off. After your last meal, a couple hours go by and your digestion starts to slow and turn off. That's when the body switches over to a couple of different processes that help fight cancer cells. It helps restore your organs. It gets everything back to the way it is supposed to be. If that energy is taken away and focused on digestion, there might be some things left unaddressed in the body, especially if you're not getting enough sleep. So adding tea can be really soothing to the digestive system in the evening and help your body remember, hey, okay, it is time to settle down. It is time to slow down so that my body can do what it's supposed to do overnight while I rest. Okay. Any type of tea is great as long as it is a green tea. There are 2 reasons for that. A green tea, let's preface, no added caffeine. You don't want to be wired with a black tea or a matcha style tea because that can interfere with your sleep, can interfere with your REM cycles of sleep, meaning that you won't wake up feeling rested. So it's really important to make sure that you are having a caffeine-free, especially if you are caffeine sensitive, or a very low caffeine tea option if you are not so sensitive to caffeine levels. The other reason that you might want to choose a green tea is that green tea extract, also known as EGCG, has been shown to be one of the only compounds that actually burn and shrink fat cells. This is something that you want to look for in any product that is claiming to burn fat or shrink fat cells or what have you. That is one of the only scientifically founded compounds that burns and shrinks fat cells. So if you're having a cup of green tea in the evening, It may help your metabolism speed up a little bit and help manage weight while you sleep. So, really cool benefits. It is also great to support the cardiovascular system. There's lots of really good things in there. If you're struggling with specific digestive issues, you might want to look for a ginger or peppermint based tea, as those are soothing to the gut. They can help relieve some symptoms like gas and bloating. That's all I have for you today on this very overview brush of digestion and your health. If you want more, here are 2 ways that we can continue this conversation. Way number 1 is if you are local to the Northern Virginia area, Maryland, DC even, join us in the office at Mosaic Theory MD in Sterling, Virginia on Thursday, May 26th at 6 p.m. We are going to be hosting an open house and a quick little run through of how digestion and health promotion actually correlate to your lab results, to your body, and ways that you can start improving your health today. So that is an option available. You can come in person, ask us questions, listen to what we have to share as nutrition professionals and doctors, internists, physicians on this topic so that we can really look at where you're at right now, use your goals as a benchmark, and give you the tools that are going to help you get there faster. Now, if you are listening to this from somewhere else in the world, what you can do is reach out to me via one of the contact methods in the show notes and let me know that you want to have a follow-up podcast conversation on digestion. The more specific you can be with your questions, the more able I am to help you, the more able I am to go out and do more research if needed, or tap into the giant filing cabinet that is my brain and share more in-depth topics under the umbrella of digestion. Reach out, let me know what you think. I would love it if you sent me a message on Instagram at BeWellWithBaileyF and told me what you thought of this episode. Ask any questions that you have there. That'll help keep my brain straight and you might get a little bit of a quicker answer. And I'd love for you to share this podcast episode with a friend or family member that you love. We talked about it in the beginning. If you have a family history or family risk of developing a chronic illness, you're ahead of the curve by investing your time in listening to podcasts like this. So I just have to say before we go that I'm so proud of you and excited for you that you're taking the time to improve your health with simple tips like the ones we shared in this episode today. Thank you for spending your time with me, for sharing your day with me today. Cannot wait to hear what you thought of this episode and to be back for a couple follow-up episodes on digestion specifically. Thanks again. Until next time, my friend, stay well. Thank you for being a part of this conversation today. By sharing with just one friend, you are not only showing the people that you love that you care about them, but you are helping this message that healthy does not have to be so hard reach hundreds of other people. Be sure to check out the show notes and visit www.bewellhwc.com for more information and to subscribe to the show so that you get notified every time there is a new episode available for you to learn more health tips and help you achieve your healthiest self. I cannot wait to sit down and chat with you again so soon. Until then, stay well.